Hello, everybody. This is the Retire On Cocktail Update for 2024. About 460 days ago, I put together this concept of taking 4 assets and building a certain set of allocations, dropping an amount of $30,000, and now we're going to see exactly where this has gone just in a little over a year. Also, we'll look into different strategies like DCAS, how important that is too, and how $19 can save you a fortune. And we'll break that down as well. We'll also look at where the portfolio is today, how the allocations have changed radically, and where it's going, as well as some of our new models as well, and new models that are coming. So this is going to be a bonkers video, and I know people love them. And anybody that's embraced my Retire On methodology has done very, very well over the years. I've been doing it for a long time. So let's get into it. And shout out as well to the team and everybody on Patreon. And this is from Scooby-Doo. It was James screaming to us all to buy Solana, Microstrategy, and Tesla. Anybody here who is not in this Patreon, please do join. Thank you so much, Scooby-Doo. I appreciate that. I hope I didn't scream at you all too loud, but it's been a good run. But I want to remind everybody, nothing goes up forever. We saw the violent nature of markets over the past 5 days or so, where Bitcoin got rejected off of 100K, went all the way down to 90,000, and now it's up nearly $4,500, $4,600 as we speak. So things are rebounding, and the volatility of MicroStrategy is insane, but that's okay. You want to be in these high vol assets. The volatility is vitality, everybody. And of course, this is not financial advice. Do Travels, Sir Winston, Sean Donnelly, K8, T&D Tesla, thank you guys. And tomorrow, part of the give back, which is a big part of this channel, I'll do a live, Q&A with you all tomorrow. So submit questions in the chat as well. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And there's a Retire On playlist up here, so you can see all the other stuff too. Now, these were the 4 chosen assets a little over a year ago: Tesla, Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, and Solana. It's basically half Tesla, half crypto, but proxies too. And what I try and always do is think about a risk curve, balance risk and reward. So for me, per this chart, you will see, again, this is over a year ago, I saw Tesla as being the lowest risk and the potentially safest, highest reward. Bitcoin number 2. MicroStrategy was number 3. When I put MicroStrategy on here, people thought I was freaking nuts. And this is a chart from last year where Ethereum was crap. Even though I got out of the position, I thought it was kind of safe, at least safer than Solana. But Solana made the cut. Ethereum did not make the cut. Remember, what's most important here is preserve capital first. That should be your primary focus. Hence, always think in terms of risk curves. Don't YOLO into memes or other stuff where you could lose everything. So preserve capital first, and second step is to grow that capital. And this is part of the Retire On series. I do this. Yeah, that's me. Let me see, is that grape juice or is that red wine? Well, it's a cocktail, so it could be red wine. Anyway, the point is, retiring takes planning. The reason I make these videos is to give people a structure and a discipline and a plan to follow. First step is have a plan. That's why I make these videos. Again, some of the content in here could be quite offensive. Let's get into it. First of all, this was the exact slide from summer 2023 and the allocations and the prices. So you'll see Bitcoin is at 29K, Tesla 245, MicroStrategy 373. I'll hammer this home a number of times because people sometimes don't hear or remember or see, but MicroStrategy did a 10-for-1 split. So the price back then, today, would be $37. Remember that. And Solana was $24. And that's basically the allocation and the plan and the price targets based on all my models. Then, again, to hammer home, 10-for-1 stock split, cost basis is now $37, not $370. And this was the summer allocation in terms of number of shares, 59 shares. We basically dropped $30,000, okay? The plan was to take a chunk of money for somebody to build a little retirement plan. 30 grand was the number we landed on because I believed by 2032, I could turn 30K into $1 million. Let's see how far we got so far. and what the plan is, by the way. And also remember, I sandbag stuff when I do this, and some things have just been extraordinary so far. So here we are, 59 shares of Tesla, 0.37 Bitcoin, 13 shares of Microstrategy, 19 tokens of Solana, and that 13 shares of Microstrategy becomes 130. Remember that as well. And basically, D-Day was this is so important because some people didn't have $30,000 to drop in a bag. But I said, for those who do not, you have until April 2024 was my idea. That was actually coincides with the Bitcoin halving date before things really kick off, i.e. go up. As it turns out, things went up a little higher earlier than expected, came back down to earth. And we had the chop consolidation during summer 2024, aka the doldrums. But this is what I suggested, is you have 7.7 months to DCA into the different assets. Now, I'm going to show you the power of the DCA on steroids tool. It is the best, literally, I don't shill anything, but it's the best $19 you'll ever spend. We basically give it away. There's a team behind that supports and allocates out the indicators, but this is DCA on steroids. And again, for those that didn't have the 30K, I'm going to prove to you now the impact of this product across these four assets over this exact time frame. First, we have Tesla. Dollar cost averaging on steroids. You would have had, if you use this product, instead of 29 shares using DCA, you'd have 39.3 shares. You would have spent a little bit more, but your ROI is 55% on using just DCA every week, spending $100 versus 62% using DCAS. The green little triangles are where you buy, and it keeps you out during periods of spikes. We've gone through a big spike as well. Next one is Solana ROI. This is quite stunning. You would go from having 88 shares, tokens, versus 108 using DCAS. You would have spent, this is kind of crazy, you would have spent less than half the money, and you have a lot more tokens, and your ROI is 720% using DCS versus 225 using DCA. Again, very good example here. The Tesla was not so hot, but still positive ROI. This one is incredible. MicroStrategy ROI, 379% ROI using DCA, 739% using DCAS. Again, crazy delta here. And this final one is Bitcoin. You would have had, this is interesting here because your ROI is 95% DCA and 232% DCAS. But you would have had much higher return, but not much as allocated as before. So you don't have, instead of 0.13 Bitcoin, you'd only have 0.088 Bitcoin using this. Again, $100 a week, DCA versus DCS. The main point here, though, is, and to stress, when you are using this DCAS product across multiple assets, and by the way, for those of you who are planning like to retire in 2028, 2030, 2032, start thinking about this very carefully, because what DCAS will do is it will keep you out of things when they are not a good value, and you will have extra cash every week. So imagine you have $100 to allocate to these four assets, and you don't blow your $100 because it's keeping you out of, say, Tesla on a spike or Bitcoin on a spike or something else. You can allocate that to something that is investable, maybe MicroStrategy. So that's a very important thing to take away from that. Now, let's get back to the Retire on cocktail where we were last summer. This is the price predictions from our Retire on model asset price forecast. Now, I want to stress a couple of things here. I know it'll look crazy. You know, people thought I was crazy when I had my MicroStrategy price predictions, and no, I'm not. People thought I was crazy with my Tesla price predictions. No, I'm not. Bitcoin as well. But here, if you look at just some of these assets, I do want to stress a couple of things. Number one, they are conservative predictions. And number two, I sandbag everything. So if you look at the price of Bitcoin here in 2032, it's 571K. A lot of people are predicting 1.5 million by 2032. And then you've got Tesla, $26,999, call it $2,700. Kathy Wood has a $2,700 price target on Tesla for 2029, 4 years earlier. And she doesn't even take into account bots. So that's how sandbagged these numbers are. So what I'm going to do is take these projections, weave them into our retirement model. There's a lot of things behind the scenes here. But this is the rolling return on investment so far on where we are. And this is kind of bonkers. So you can see here clearly from how much we have invested and how many we have, and the rolling ROI from the original $30,000 investment. So far, that $30,000 is now up to $135,000. Next year, if things continue, it'll go to $176,000. That will be a 489% ROI, return on investment, on the original 30 grand. And people could have invested 10 grand, 100 grand, whatever. I know there are people that religiously do this, so they're very happy right now. But remember, nothing goes up in a straight line. 2026, 670%. If we fast forward all the way to 2033, which is our first year of retirement, this $30,000 invested in 2023 becomes $1.545 million, and that's a 5,050% return on investment made in 2032. And it does not include any DCA. Just 130K, boom, drop it. And then August 2023. So that's the point here. And that 1.54 million we'll come back to as well in a minute. Now I'm going to break down what's happened just in the space of a little over a year, because this is important. What happened to this 30K? Well, the allocations went wild. I was originally, I think, 15% of Microstrategy, 5% Solana, and now it's all over the place. Solana's now 19% of the bag, and Microstrategy has gone from 15 to 40% of the bag. So 20% of the allocation became 60% of the portfolio. Okay? They were also the riskiest assets, if you go back to the risk curve. And this is why we always got to think in terms of risk and reward. They were considered way out in the risk curve, but they also performed very well indeed. So I hope everybody's tracking with me here so far. The allocations went wild. Now, you'll see as well the Tesla portfolio share has shrunk, because even though Tesla is up, it's not up as much as the others. So let's go back in time. I'm going to share this in a pie chart because this is so important. And if you watch my channel, you hear me on Patreon, allocations matter, but you have to always balance risk and reward. Remember, the goal is to preserve first, alpha second. This is the original 30 grand, 50% Tesla, 5% Sol, 15% MicroStrategy, 30% Bitcoin. This has become this. Absolutely crazy. The smallest part now has gone from 50% to 14.5%. That's Tesla. MicroStrategy is now 40%, Solana is 20%, and Bitcoin has shrunk to 27.3%, even though all of these assets have gone up a great deal. Let's calculate how much. This is kind of ROI per asset over the last 460 days. Bitcoin up 227.76%. This is, remember, return on investment. If you want a multiple, it's gone up 3.3 times. That's the gain since return on cocktail video, 3.3x. Tesla's done a 1.36x, which is up 36%. MicroStrategy has done an 11x, nearly up almost 1,000%. And Solana has done 904%, a 10x. So it's very interesting, actually, because two of my major positions are, of course, Solana and MicroStrategy, but they all began very, very small. Now they've become ginormous, and they've completely eclipsed my Tesla and Bitcoin, which I've been stacking both since 2017. That's how crazy things are. But let's look at this another way. I want to talk about another video I did. This was about 2 months before this Retire on Cocktail. I did a video called Retire on MicroStrategy. This one has gone off the hook. It was originally recommended you take 30K, and again, you buy 117 shares, which has become 1,170 shares. And MicroStrategy is now $400, 17 months later. That 30,000 is worth nearly $500,000. This is why we have so many MicroStrategy millionaires in the community. So congratulations, everybody. Well done. And it's fun. Now, let's walk through the model and find out exactly where we are and how things look for 2032, because that was the plan. Can you take 30 grand and retire on it 10 years later? Let's have a look. So this is the model. And you'll see here, it's a couple of things. It takes into account the retirement start date, 2032. By the way, we have one of our roadmap items is we're going to put this model online as a web app. You'll be able to enter your own little portfolios, your own year to retirement, your own amount you want to spend in retirement, say $4,000 a month in the United States in the year 2030, indexed by 5 or 6% per year, and of course the appreciation level on your existing bag. That's basically how this works. So you can back into where you need to be for when you want to retire and how much you want to have. But this is where it gets really crazy. It's kind of fun. So that all the pieces are there. There's a lot more to this. There will be a really cool model, hopefully coming up. Now, this is the fun fact, number one, of this model of where it's gone. Now, this $30,000 will grow up to 1.54 million. Remember I said that by 2032 and allow you to spend $9,400 a month. And then you can use that for 30 years indexed by 5% per year. So when it comes to the last year that you'll be blowing your money, that'll be the year 2061, you'll be blowing nearly $500,000 a year in expenses. Now, if you choose to move to a locale that's cheaper, like a Vietnam or an India or Indonesia or a place like that, you can live like a king. Absolutely, like 9,000 a month. Crazy. But that was the level. I backed into that using the model to calculate the break-even spend per month indexed by 5 or 6%. I think it's 5% over time. That's why it grows from, let's zoom into that number a second. The first year of living expenses, 112,800. The following year, 120 grand, up, all the way to nearly $500,000 by the year 2060. That's how this works. Now, I want to tell you something that's really interesting. This is the funner fact, okay? If the most important way to save in life is to control your burn, don't waste money, don't go on $20,000 vacations and buy stupid cars that cost a fortune to maintain. But this is the even funner fact. The expectation for the United States for a couple to retire is $4,000 a month, okay? And of course, indexed by 5%, etc. If you do that and you invested your $30,000, remember, last year, into this portfolio, there's a few things I will stress about the portfolio though, as well before I get that. You could be leaving $23.75 million to your loved ones in the year 2060 because you control your burn. So you're not spending $9,200 or $9,400 a month. You're only spending $4,000, indexed, of course, for the next 30 years. And because you're only eating a little bit of your bag continues to grow. It's growing at pretty much a rate that's outstripping your spend. And the rate of appreciation in this model is only 15% in your assets. So again, sandbagged, very conservative. And this is the way I want you all to think as well. But let's get into a couple of conclusions as well and a couple of surprises. And first of all these videos, thank you to the team who does the Substack, podcasts, emails, all the slides, all the content, if you want to read it all later. Let's get into the conclusion of where we are. First of all, I have to stress these things because sometimes people forget. The goal is to help people plan their financial freedom, but allocate accordingly, use this as a guide, and build for bear cases first. So important. I had lots of targets, like the number of Sol you need to retire, the number of Tesla shares you need to retire, the number of Microstrategy shares you need to retire, etc., based on all the different countries. I didn't do that for this one because it takes so long to do, but in a future one, I will do. But so build for the bear case and then up it. Then go for the expected case. Then go for build for the bull case first and then get to the bear. Always overstack. The other thing that's very important to note as well, there's always risk. Any one of these assets categories could blow up. Self-driving cars could blow up. Solana could blow up. Bitcoin could have a double spend problem. MicroStrategy could have any number of problems as well. Nagesh, thank you for coming. Remember, there's risk. That's why we do allocations. Still very concentrated allocations, but you saw how 5% became 20%, and how 15% became 40%, and how 50% became 15%, which I'll get back to in a minute too. This is also important. You've always heard me, probably the most important part is dancing shoes, tap dancing shoes. So the dance of the markets never stops. Assets shuffle and do some somersault hops should our investment beliefs rearrange. Flipping assets is how we embrace the change. I actually wrote this little poem before AI existed, so it's not AI. It's me, and it's a bit corny, but the point is tap dancing shoes, everything changes, you got to play with it. And we've illustrated in the community how we can just pair trade between two assets, MicroStrategy and Tesla, and 6x the bag in a very short window of time of 150 days, just pair trading. This also doesn't include leaps, it doesn't include staking, or all the other good stuff that comes along with growing your bag too. And the most important part, this is the most important part, you can make a lot more pair trading between assets, and we have a new rotation model coming soon that will help that as well. And finally, when I made the video 8 Ways to 8,000, which is nearly 3 years ago, people thought I was completely insane. Now, Tesla Boomer Mama has a price target of over 11,000. You've got Cern Basher, over 10,000 predictions. You got a lot of YouTubers as well, over 10,000 predictions. This no longer looks as comical as it did 3 years ago. And again, for this prediction, I only have 2,700 target. Let me pull that up, make sure. Yeah, 26.99. So again, heavily sandbagged. All the rest is gravy. So if these things do explode, then you can go buy your Lambos. You can blow extra during your retirement and have that $10,000, $20,000 vacation or whatever else. This is the update. It's incredible. Again, we're in a bull market. We're more than halfway through the bull market. Things are crazy. But think about next stages, rotations, hedging, and stuff like that to preserve the gains that we have made. And I still believe there's a lot more gains to come. How high we go, though, remains to be seen. Let me just check on the markets live. Wow. So Bitcoin is up $4,900 today. Nearly $5,000. Huge recovery in a short window of time. MicroStrategy is at 394. By the way, the numbers, I think, in this model for the ROI, we're assuming 380. So the ROI is even higher. It's more than 11x from this thing. So thank you all for coming. Don't forget, I'll be on tomorrow for Thanksgiving special. Do some questions with you all and give back. Happy holidays, everybody. In the US, of course, if you're not in the US. Well, hope you like the update on the Retire on Cocktail. Remember, allocations matter. And risk-reward balancing is also always very critical. Thank you all for coming, everybody. See you later. Bye-bye.